Today's subject is called Fairytales and PIE, and I won't be talking about baked food with filling, but let us start at the beginning. So, fairy tales, yes! They have the ability of taking us back to our childhood. Here you can see a few illustrations of very famous fairy tales. On the left side, at the top, there's a beautiful lady with black hair and 7 dwarfs. So, yes, it's Snow White. On the left side, at the bottom, there are 2 siblings eating a house made of sweets. Well, we know them as Hansel and Gretel. Next to them, there's a little girl dressed in red. Of course, that's Little Red Riding Hood. The one on the right side is a young lady with ridiculously long hair, and she's called Rapunzel. But who do you think is responsible for these fairy tales? Well, of course, you may know them as the Brothers Grimm. On the left, there's Jacob Grimm. On the right, Wilhelm Grimm. They both lived in Germany, and they were the oldest surviving sons in a family of 9. That's a lot. They studied law at university, but decided to work as librarians after their mother died. Both of them were very passionate about German folklore and investigated how words changed their sense of time. Their different personalities complemented each other. So Jacob was physically much stronger than Willem, and Willem was warmer than Jacob. Jacob was the one who was more academic, and he was the one who was researching on the theories of language and grammar. Willem, on the other hand, was more interested in literature, and he was the one who revised and edited the stories. In 1812, the brothers made their first collection of 86 German fairy stories called Tales of Children and Home. This collection included Snow White, Cinderella, the Frog Prince, and many, many more. But you know, fairy tales were not intended to be read by children. The stories had very long introductions and no illustrations. They were full of cruelty, mean witches, ugly trolls, hunger. They were totally not child-friendly as we know them now. By 1823, the first English translation of the Grimm's collection was written, and by 1925, the brothers collected 50 of their most popular tales. They republished a small edition after they refined and softened the fairy tales. The brothers were also responsible for the Grimm's Law. They investigated phonetic shifts in German language and found that they were all linked to a common root. So, the Grimm's Law shows us how consonants of different Indo-European languages relate. In the grid below, there are 2 examples to make this more clear. So, words beginning with a P in Latin and Greek, pater, pada, pet. Words beginning with F in Germanic languages, father, foot, wood, fuss. You can see that they're related. And K in non-Germanic languages, kion, canis. H in Germanic languages, hound, hund. The Deutsche Grammatik was largely Jacob's work on linguistics. It was the first to employ a scientific methodology and gave linguistics a sound basis. The Deutsche Wörterbuch is to the German language what the Oxford English Dictionary is to English. The brothers recorded information about the history and usage of every German word. Unfortunately, Willem had died by the time the first volume was published. When Jacob died, he was only at F. The dictionary wasn't completed until 1961. It was 32 volumes and 84 kilos. So let's talk about PIE, better known as Proto-Indo-European. Modern linguists think that all 6,000 languages can be traced back to 10 language families. French, Spanish, Italian, and other Roman languages were traced back from Latin. Jacob Grimm traced back almost all the languages of Europe to one ancestor language, known as Proto-Indo-European, PIE. This language was spoken more than 5,000 years ago in southern Russia. it was split into a number of dialects, which developed into separate languages. It's the oldest language we have evidence of. There are no written records, so unfortunately we don't know what it would have sounded like. There are just 6 official languages in United Nations: English, French, Spanish, Chinese, Russian, and Arabic. And all 192 states have to speak these by using old-fashioned language imperialism. So, do you think we would be better off if everybody spoke one language? Just one language? According to Zaha Bustema, that's a big fat no. She is the one who thinks that there's a beauty in languages and it has its own music and expression. So, I hope you know a little more about fairy tales and pie now. Thank you for listening.